Okay, good morning, everyone. Once again, we are on Art Conversation, and we have today Ravi Ramaswamy, straight from Bangalore, with us to continue talking about uh, the work that he does. So, Ravi is part of the organization called Center for Community Dialogue and Change. He's basically he has completed his education from Christ College in Bangalore.
Joseph,
Uh, Madras Christian College, right?
and Joseph.
Yeah. So he did his
Correct,
master's
correct.
in social work, and before that, he did his bachelor's from St. Joseph's College of Art and Science. He has quite experience in working with different kind of communities. So as of now, he's working as a trustee for a Center for Community Dialogue and Change. So before that, he was working as a program associate for Samvada, program manager for Plus Trust, then senior program officer for Sexual Health Environment Project, uh, and lot of things. So we'll start talking about it, and you will understand what exactly he does, how he does. So he's the one who follows theater of the oppressed uh, work, and he's very much into it. So he worked with different kind of communities and organizations, and he also teaches how this theater of the oppressed works need to be done. So Ravi, welcome on the show. Uh,
Thank you.
we are using this lockdown time to have some good exchange, good knowledge exchange to reach out to interested people. So first, tell me what exactly theater of the oppressed is.
So, what is theater of the oppressed? Well, it's a popular form of theater. First, basically, and it was started in Brazil in the 1960s by Augusto Boal,
Yeah.
who was a theater director himself. Right? So, theater of the oppressed, for me, what it means is working with communities to create and to tell the stories that the community has to tell. Right? So it is stories that come out from the community and not from a person who goes and works with the communities. So the facilitator, in that sense, in a theater of the oppressed format, is just a person who creates a platform where where the communities are able to be themselves and tell their own stories.
Okay.
It is a form of theater which is created by the community for the community themselves. So it
Okay.
is totally community driven form of theater.
Also,
So that, very broadly speaking, that is theater of the oppressed.
okay. So it is not primarily about the performing something, but it is more about
Mhm.
performing for the community.
It's it's I mean, more than performance, it's more about the process of working with communities.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Okay.
So the performance itself. So there is a performance component in theater of the oppressed because it is theater, right? So there is a performance part of it. The
Right.
performance is very unique, which is very different from other kinds of performances in other forms of theater.
Mhm.
The performance in theater of the oppressed, one kind of performance, which is a very popular form of forum, which is very popular form of theater called forum theater
Okay.
in theater of the oppressed, is where the community um, shares their stories, right? And from the shared experiences of stories, they create a short play, right? And what is unique about this play is, one, it's the stories of the community, and all the lines and performances are all by the community themselves, so they know what they are telling because it is their story. They tell their own story. The lines in the play are their own.
Mm-hmm.
And what is very interesting about this form of theater, of this kind of performance, is the, the original play, right, has only or shows only the problem or the conflict that the community is going through,
Okay.
right? And the entire aspect of forum theater is when the audience members, whoever is the audience members, is invited by the joker, which is a technical term in theater of the oppressed for the facilitator, is invited to come on stage and be part of the play.
Okay.
And what do I mean by be part of the play? Is engage in a dialogue with the actors who are the community members. Engage in dialogue on issues that are shown in the play, on issues that matter to everybody,
Right.
and to see where do we journey from what was shown, where do we go,
Okay.
looking at strategies, looking at ideas, maybe possible solutions to the conflicts that are in the play. So that is one kind of performance that is done
Okay.
in theatre.
All right. So it is more about exploring the possibilities and look at the kind of a issue that has been addressed in the play from different
Mm.
perspectives.
Yeah, yeah. And the crux, and I think the main fundamental is about engaging in dialogue.
Okay.
Yeah,
Ravi, this
that's
is
the
very,
fundamental.
yeah, this is very interesting, but this is very new area for people in India, especially those who are not engaged with any kind of theater
Ah,
activity. So, is it possible?
mm.
Can you give us a small example to help us understand how it works?
How the forum theatre works.
Yeah.
Ah. So instead of getting into the I'll just tell you the process of how forum. I think I just explained the process of forum theatre,
Yeah.
but
Any
so do you want
example
like
with
specific?
any kind of community that you have worked with, so
Ah,
people can imagine how it works?
yeah, yeah. So I can share with you one workshop that I worked with a group of prisoners in
Okay.
Bangalore.
Okay.
So that was a 3-day workshop which culminated in a forum theatre performance by the prisoners in Bangalore.
Okay.
This was in Bangalore,
Oh, so you made them act.
Bangalore Central Jail. So sorry.
You made them act.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's interesting.
yeah. So the idea was through the workshop, through the 3 days, through various exciting games and exercises in creatively oppressed developed by Boal, I took them through the process of one. Uh, Initially, it was the games and exercises. I took them through the idea of how can we be comfortable with our own bodies, right?
Okay.
And I feel that's extremely important in the larger aspect of performance, right? If you're looking at performance, how comfortable are we with our own bodies? And for this specific group, right, of prisoners, very rigid, very oppressive system that they are in right now in the jail, right, with no scope for basically being themselves, right?
Correct.
So use of the body is also very rigid, extremely rigid. So I had to do a lot of process work. So I kind of engaged them in a lot of games and exercises, and they really enjoyed it. They were totally in it.
Mm.
So by the time day 3 happened, when the forum performance was supposed to start, they were in a position where they were able to tell their own stories.
Okay.
Right? They were comfortable telling their own stories.
Right.
Actually, more than being ready, I think they were comfortable. I would say that's more important. So, like what I did then is I divided. So there were a group of 25. I divided them into 4 groups, right? So they divided themselves into 4 groups, and then each group worked on very broad themes. Like, for example, they wanted to work on issues that are outside of the prison,
Okay.
themes and conflicts outside the prison, because they said very clearly that inside the prison we will not work, because there is no theater or workshop can do anything inside the jail. So there's no point of looking at it. Let's look
Right.
at issues outside. I said fine. So they wanted to look at certain environments outside the jail. One is at home, one
Okay.
is in the workplace, and one is in the community, larger community that they are from,
Yeah.
like let's say the panchayat or the village, like that.
Right.
So that's how the team also, that's how the group also got developed. Some of them who wanted to work with inside the home came into one group, like that. That's how the group got developed. And then they started sharing their stories in their own small groups, the 4 groups. So I just went to each group to see. I just heard the different stories that was being shared. And then once each group were finished sharing their stories, then I asked them, now create the play, right,
Okay.
from the stories. And I said, like I said in all groups, that either choose one story that works for everybody, or choose a combination of stories with the foundation being the common emotion.
Correct.
what is everyone going through. So many of the stories were a combination of stories. Many of the plays that were created were a combination of stories.
Mhm.
But I would say what is extremely fascinating about this group is that one, they were extremely ready to tell their stories and go deep in,
Right.
basically dive right into this process without understanding what it was. And I feel it comes from, which is I think a very important aspect of forum theater. It comes from because everybody in this group is going through some conflict. Everybody,
Yeah.
a lot of oppression and struggles, being who they are. Right from stigma to discrimination to not knowing their future,
Correct.
all that. So when they were showing that, right, they just went on. They said there is no holds. I mean, there were basically no holds barred when they were telling their stories. That's a very unique feature when you work with certain communities, or when you work with communities who want to tell their stories.
Mhm.
It's just no holds barred. They just tell you.
Okay.
So it just makes my job also. And said, okay, I didn't have to ask them anything else. I just said, okay, this is a story. So let's work with their story. You know, they would just write in, and then I said, okay, once the 4 plays were created, then again, this group also is very interesting because this group did not want to perform their play for the police officers. They were very clear. We will not do it.
Okay.
So we performed in-house within ourselves, participants for participants. That
Okay.
was the other thing that also, which is again a very uniquely this group specific format.
Right.
You know. So then once the plays were created, I went. We kind of did a. I did a very short rehearsal process because we didn't have too much time for rehearsal
Yeah.
process, which is also a part of the entire forum thing. So I went to each group and said, okay, just ask them questions about the characters. Characters of if you're playing certain oppressive so-called characters in your play, what's the motivation? Or very specific examples like what is your relationship in this family? What do you like, for example, at home? What do you call your father, or what do you call your son, or what do you call your other members? Use those in the play itself. Just to get because that is how you will actually talk to your family. You won't
Correct.
talk to your family in English.
Correct.
And the thing is, just to tell you that the entire workshop was not in English. The entire workshop was in Kannada. That is the
Acha.
local language.
Yeah.
Yeah. The entire workshop was in Kannada. So the whole play, all the plays were also in Kannada. So then I say, okay, then use terms that you will use, like if you say appa, then you say use the word appa in your play, right?
Mm.
And also just to tell them that, for example, will the appa say these things in the play? Like if there were certain lines, I just asked them, I just pushed them to really think deeper. I said, okay, being this father, will the father say these things in your play? Look at that. I said, I just look at that and then create your play. So I
Right.
gave them those pointers, but not necessarily telling them exactly what to say, which is
Okay.
not the job of the
Correct.
facilitator. You don't tell them anything what to say. So
Correct.
I did all that. All that preparation happened as part of rehearsal. And once they were all ready with their play, which was like there were 3 scenes in each play, like 4 plays, so there were 12 scenes. So so I asked one group to come up and perform. So all 4 groups got a chance to perform, right? And everybody watched the play.
Yeah.
And this part, is where after each play we do a discussion about the play. Like the questions like, what's the problem in the play? What's the oppression? What's the struggle? Who is struggling?
Yeah.
And who's creating the struggle? Who's creating a problem? Who's creating the conflict? And other characters who may be like bystanders or witnesses. Can they do something? So we had those discussions after each play.
Right.
Once that happened, then I asked them to start a voting process
Okay.
because we had 4 plays and we could only forum one play. We could only do an interaction with one play. So I asked them to choose one play which they relate to the most. Not the best play,
Right.
definitely not the best, but what for that day relate to the most. So we did a voting process. One play got chosen,
So audience
maximum
would
votes.
okay.
Audience chose one play for the maximum votes. Then we rerun the play again.
Right.
And this time, I told them that, see, this time we all know what's going to happen. Now I am looking at you to see if you are in this position, if you are in the place of this person who's struggling,
Right.
because they're already identified who's struggling. What would you do? Right? So I'm now looking at that aspect. I'm not looking at the play because I know what's going to happen. I'm going to see who's going to say stop. and come up. So I explained all that procedures to them. They said, yeah, they got it. They were very clear, and a lot of them had ideas.
Yeah.
Again, because they're going through them themselves right there at that moment. Everybody is going through some conflict, so they understand that okay, we have to try to do something. They were all willing to do.
Okay.
So I said, okay, just come up. And I had about 8 or 9 interventions that happened. 8 or 9 people who came up and tried different ideas.
Wonderful.
Uh, and it went on for about an hour and a half. That play, the
Right.
discussion, I mean, not discussion, the interventions went on for an hour and a half. Very, very, very emotionally driven interventions. As you know, it's bound to happen in a forum because you're working with real stories
Correct.
and not somebody else's story. You're working your story. And a lot of very fascinating interventions, and also how the other characters in the play were also challenging the audience members to come up and see, and basically not just giving up very easily, but also actually trying to build strength of the audience members who come up, trying to push them to come up with what else. Okay, what else are you going to tell me?
Correct.
Convince me
Correct.
to be somebody else. So that dialogue, and that's the dialogue in the forum. Also, what is interesting to see that it is not just saying, "Hi, what you're saying is right." No, but if you're going to tell me this, I'm going to tell you this. Now, what are you going to do? I'm the father, so I'm not going to just listen to you. So, and it was fascinating to see them because I had not explained like I would do in a training that I do usually in a 6-day training of theatre. I would explain
Right.
a lot to the participants.
Correct.
Here it just went on. I just gave them little bit pointers about what forum is, but they had just understood the difference between. They just understood how to push. You know,
Right.
how do you challenge audience members who came up? And finally, there was a moment for the one of the actors where the original so-called oppressor in the play modified his character a little bit, modified his role. He
Hmm.
became from a person who was not listening at all to his son. This father became he just sat down, became silent, and he listened to the son, but he didn't give up fully. But he said, "Okay, I know what you're saying, but right now, have you eaten food?" Because he had not eaten food. He said, "Have
Okay.
you eaten food?" Son says, "No, I've not eaten food." Then he said, "Okay, go and eat food, and then let's talk." And you could see that the tempo of his emotions earlier
Right.
and now had changed. And he was also very clear that nothing has changed. His conflict has not changed, but the fact that the emotions have come down from being at so high, and now it's more of a maybe able to talk more now.
Right.
The chances of talking more to the father is there. So that was something that came out of this play. It was extremely fascinating to watch because one, it was not rehearsed.
Yeah.
The character father didn't know what to do. I mean, he would not rehearse this because he didn't know what they will come up with. Even the actors did not know what else to do, but this happened in the context of that forum.
Correct.
And when I asked the father at the end of this thing, what was it? How did you react? What was it? He said, the father said after the play, he said, "See, now I'm talking to you as me, not as a father." And he said that, and this is after the forum. He said, I have to face the same. I have to say this. I have to face the same problem when I go back home
Okay.
with my father. With my father, so I know exactly one. So for me, playing the father was not difficult. It was easy because I know that my father is also like this,
Correct.
and I also know maybe then what else I need to do to convince my father that I am not a criminal, but I've come back home. I've become reformed.
Right.
I've come back home and give me a chance to live this new life. So that was one forum, which was actually I mean, it was a group that had no um, experience of theater at all in their lives. None of them have had any experience of performance or theater,
Correct.
and the and the construct of the current structure where they live in basically influences how they are,
Right.
right? So rigid,
So I
do
think,
not move, do not look at everybody. So yeah,
yeah, I think Ravi,
so that was something.
not having the experience of theater is the beauty
Yeah,
of theater of the oppressed when you come out as a real you and put
yeah,
forward your viewpoints or questions or opinions or whatever it may be, right?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's a wonderful experience that you have shared, but we are talking about a lot of technical terms. Okay, so I just want to underline what do you mean by uh, oppressed? because many
Hmm.
people don't realize that
Yeah,
they are going through some kind of operation.
yeah, correct, correct. Yeah, I think that's a very good question that you asked, because that's also a question that we've also been asked.
Right.
What is the idea of what is oppression, or what is oppressed? Why is it called theater of the oppressed in that sense? So, if I have to look at it, let me just answer it in a couple of ways. One is the idea of oppression itself. What is oppression? Right? Oppression, one, happens to everyone.
Yeah.
So it is not for a particular marginalized or oppressed community. No. So which is why it's theater of the oppressed and not for the oppressed.
Yeah.
So the fundamental thing is that it's not that I am different from the group that I'm working with. No.
Correct. Correct.
But the idea of oppression comes from any relationship across cultural, across class, across caste divides or religion divides, where in that relationship of oppression, there is monologue that happens where one person dominates the other,
Right.
either through words, either through words, or through action, or through behavior, or through mindset.
Okay.
So there's a sense of dominating. There's a sense of authority. There's a sense of control over the other.
Mm-hmm.
So oppression is that, right? Which is dominated by these three aspects. Of that, I will tell you what to do. You just listen to me. You don't talk.
Correct.
I
Correct.
mean, basically putting it very simply, and that kind of relationship exists anywhere, right? In
Yes.
urban settings, rural settings, class divide, everywhere.
Yeah.
So the idea of oppression is that also one idea of oppression, right? So then oppressed is who? Anybody and everybody is oppressed.
Correct.
And what do I mean by that? I'm not saying it very lightly. I'm saying it because there are different kinds of oppressions that we face. Some are external, right? There is somebody, or there's a structure, or there's a system that oppresses the other. So there's an external oppression,
Right.
right? And there are some people who go through external oppression. There's also internal oppression, which is also very important. For example, internal oppression could be like, for example, maybe um, I am going through something which I don't know what I'm going through.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, let's say stress, or
Correct.
let's say,
Anxiety.
I mean, any form of pressure, stress, or disconnect with
Correct.
life.
Correct.
It's not, and all these are not necessarily somebody else is contributing. It's more about how we have been brought up. It's more about how there are voices in our head, you know,
Okay.
which tell us, which disable us from doing what we want to do.
Right.
Basically, so internal oppression is also that, and that anybody faces again. So the idea of oppressed is not a particular community at all, but it is idea of oppression is that, do I acknowledge? Does everybody acknowledge that we are going through something, or the other?
Mm-hmm.
A struggle, a conflict, oppression. The idea about acknowledging that yes, we are going through something.
Correct.
So that's the idea of oppression, and so then the oppressed comes there. Acknowledging that yes, I'm going through a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going through something. Yeah. And not everybody has that clarity, by the way, right? That we're going through something. That also happens especially when you talk about struggles, oppression. Not everybody knows that you're going through it. Sometimes you can live life without knowing that you're going through problems.
Yeah, but I think from our conversation, if people started realizing, at least started investigating, if we are going through any kind of oppressive situation, and if they start realizing, I think that is also uh, better, going one step ahead. You know, uh, they might not respond immediately. They might not
So
do
I think your
anything
voice is
about
breaking.
it. Hello.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Can you just
Yeah.
repeat that? I just lost you for a minute. Yeah.
Now, I was saying, like on this conversation, it would be also
Yeah.
great if people start realizing if they are going through any kind of oppressive situation. They might not respond immediately. They might not do anything about it, but at least
Yeah.
that sense of realization
Yeah.
will also make a lot of difference,
Yeah.
right?
And I feel that's extremely important, like you said.
Yeah.
It's very, I think the realization is important, right? So
Right. Right. Okay.
yeah, that's one. Because
Just
it's like, yeah.
coming through.
No, no, go on, go on. Yeah.
Yeah. What Center for Community Dialogue and Change. So,
Yeah.
what exactly you do in this organization?
So as Center for Community Dialogue and Change, in short, CCDC, since 2011, we have been working using theatre of the oppressed as the form.
Okay.
We have been working with communities, larger communities, various different kinds of communities, but largely in the area of education, largely in the area of education.
With the schools more.
And yeah, so but the thing is, we look at education not just in schools and colleges, but also larger community education.
Okay.
That's what you're looking for.
Okay.
So different communities. One of them is the school community, right? So in the school, we're looking at teachers and students, and sometimes heads of management. Um, in colleges, again, students, teachers, right? So in specific institutions, in
Right.
that sense, we also work with medical faculty, medical students, and medical faculty. Another area of our work, again, understanding that aspect of the human doctor, and how do we explore the human doctor.
Correct.
And the medical, working with the medical thing, that's again under a very nascent and very new field, relatively new field in India, called medical humanities. Yeah, that's what we do with the medical faculty, and and also the non-medical. Like when I say non-medical, I mean the paramedical,
Yeah.
the other stuff. So that is one form. We also work with theatre practitioners. So we have done workshops at the National School of Drama, Agartala, for the teacher. I mean the teacher in education, teacher in education program, that TIE program, theatre in education program, students there. Besides doing these workshops for various communities, like for example, also like I mentioned earlier about the prisoners. So those are also so that's again a community-based program, right? The prisoners is a community-based program, just like we did work with farmers, which is again a community-based program.
Right.
We work with senior citizens also a lot.
Okay.
So when I say we, I mean we are two of us in CCDC. So there's my mother, Ravi Ramaswamy, who's the founder of CCDC. So both of us, so she started CCDC in 2011, and since then it's been two of us working with various communities. She started pioneering work using theatre of the oppressed in mental health, actually way back in around 2011. So and now we are continuing the work also. So I now work with. So I started doing a lot of work and sustained work around mental health. The idea of mental health is again how do we start engaging in difficult conversations. Right?
Correct.
That's the idea that's the focus right now. Engaging in difficult conversations. That's what we've been focusing on through theatre of the oppressed.
Right.
So those are and all these things are where we are invited to do the workshops. We're invited by organizations and institutions to do, or communities to do.
Okay.
Besides that, we also have these trainings that we organize ourselves.
Yeah.
It's week-long trainings. These are facilitated trainings.
Just coming to that, because it is also very important. Whatever you have explained, we could understand that the theatre of the oppressed can be used at a range of communities. So it is not restricted to any one particular community as such, like school or education or something, but across the communities, starting from prison communities, schools, colleges, old age homes, you said, right? So I think that is very important. So more and more awareness need to be created about this methodology. And you do a lot of workshops to help people understand how theatre of the oppressed works. So what are the different workshops that you organize?
So one is specific workshops which are time-bound duration for the groups that we work with. And those are largely theme-based workshops, largely theme-based. So we then devise a workshop based on the theme that we have.
Right.
That is one form of workshop. We also do. So I also teach in a college where I use theatre of the oppressed as my method to actually teach subjects.
Okay.
So that's something we've been doing also. So I've been going to this college called Mount Carmel College in Bangalore for the last 4 years now, and I've been teaching. They have a subject. I mean, the final year students, degree students, have a subject journalism department.
Okay.
Students of journalism have a subject called development communication.
Okay.
That's a particular elective that the students will take.
Right.
So I've been using Theatre of the Oppressed as a tool to teach them concepts of development communication,
Okay, that's very interesting.
concepts in development communication.
Correct. So you bring it to teaching, you bring it to help different communities understand their issues and create a dialogue to gain a perspective about it, and that's very fascinating, I think. Ravi, I think this kind of lockdown time gave us an opportunity to create this kind of dialogue about knowledge exchange, and we'll keep doing that. Uh, uh, Not only in the lockdown period, but even when we are going out and started working on our own, we'll still continue
Yeah.
the dialogue. But for now, we have to stop here. So thank you very
Oh
much
yeah,
for your
can you just share one thing?
yeah.
Sorry, I think I missed something. Besides these, besides the course, we also run a week-long training, like I suggested, like I
Okay.
mentioned, a training for facilitators who are in different forms of and who are curious like to practice it with their groups.
Right.
It's a facilitator training very clearly. We offer that. We started off with doing it only in Bangalore. It's a week-long training. It's an in-depth understanding for the participants, and a lot of them would go back and practice with communities. So it's for just to kind of get an experiential understanding
Correct.
of Theatre of the Oppressed. So we do two levels right now. We do a level one, which is a very basic beginner level understanding, and a level two, which and this training is open to anybody who's interested in Theatre of the Oppressed, who would like to pursue it with their communities. Yeah. So we
Okay.
do these kinds of work largely.
Right. And
And also now we just started the mentorship program now.
okay.
We started a mentorship for those who have trained with us.
Right.
A phone, email, video call kind of a mentorship program, because a lot of people come back asking questions, right?
Yes.
How do I do this? How do I do that? And theory questions, practice questions,
True.
challenges questions. So we said, okay, let's offer it like a mentorship program, individual mentorship program, so that everybody benefits from that. Whoever would like to use, let's say our help, suggestions,
Correct.
guidelines, something
Correct.
you might want, and use that as a thing, and then continue your work. Yeah. So we do different kinds of mentorship. We also have people who come and visit, who come and shadow us, who come and observe our workshops. That's
Mm.
something we always offer in our trainings.
Okay.
Come and observe. Whenever you have time, come and sit in our workshop, so you also get to know how facilitation works.
Okay.
Or go and or if let's say your fellow participant is doing something, go and sit with them.
Correct.
Plan something together, not just individual, because plan something together. It's nice to have it.
Yeah.
It's kind of. And we also, besides the offering of observing, we also have these monthly meets that we organize. Monthly meets of people who have trained with us. They come together, which I feel is important, because the idea of coming together is also forming a community, right? Of
Right.
TO
Right.
people, of Theatre of the Oppressed people who have done Theatre of the Oppressed. And I feel that's important to create a community
Right.
who listens to each other.
And it's
So we have
interesting.
these communities right
Yeah, it's interesting
now.
to learn from each other. When
Yeah,
I'm doing something and somebody's observing and giving me a feedback about
yeah,
work that I'm doing, I think it's another form of
yeah,
learning, which is also very
yeah,
important. So
yeah.
Ravi, thank you very much for joining here today, and thank you very much for your time.
Thanks.
Stay safe, uh, don't roam around, and we'll keep continue the dialogue in future also.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Kaustubh. Thank you for this. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.